Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we're going to be talking about X, formerly Twitter, because they're about to make disinformation even worse, and they are a disinformation machine. We're going to talk about that, so heads up to all you Twitter fans out there or Elon Musk fans. Looking forward to your hate mail. Now with that, let's turn to Kyle Wiggers of TechCrunch for a primer on what exactly is happening right now, because Twitter just added an image generator to its Grok AI assistant this past Saturday, and then they removed it, and now they're bringing it back after officially announcing it. Now, this image generator, known as Aurora, was developed by xAI. That's Elon Musk's AI company, and it was trained on billions of examples from the internet. And in a blog post, xAI said that Aurora excels at photorealistic rendering and following text instructions can, and I quote, take inspiration from or directly edit user-provided images, end quote. Now, Aurora is available on X through Grok in select countries. It'll eventually roll out to everybody within a week or so, and you see where I'm going with this in terms of user-provided images and photorealistic capabilities. So, support for editing existing images will come at a later date, but it is being planned to be rolled out. And xAI also wrote, Grok can now generate high-quality images across several domains where other image generation models often struggle. It can render precise visual details of real-world entities, text, logos, and even create realistic portraits of humans, end quote. Again, you see where I'm going with this here. So, when TechCrunch basically tested Aurora this past weekend, it appeared to have very few restrictions, just like the first image generator that Grok had added, or X had added to Grok back in October. Now, accessible through the Grok tab on both the mobile app and the website, Aurora could generate images of public and copyrighted figures like Mickey Mouse without complaint. And if you know anything about Disney and intellectual property protection, they have sued like daycares over people that have drawn like Mickey Mouse and Disney characters and then put it on their social media, because basically that is their intellectual property and they've got an army of lawyers to defend it. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see. Now, Aurora stopped short of nudes in the testing though, but graphic content wasn't off limits, meaning you might have people that are partially clothed doing adult type stuff, even though they're not fully nude. Now, Aurora also obviously isn't flawless. One of the things that all of these image generators have is issue with fingers, and people on X, aka Twitter, were posting, images that Aurora was generating and the fingers were all jacked up or merged or whatever. That's a very common thing, basically, for all image generators of artificial intelligence at this time. Obviously, that will improve. But if you're looking at a picture, that you think may be realistic of, let's say, a political figure that is doing one thing or the other, and your confirmation bias says, yeah, I knew that guy was a jerk. I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on. Check out the fingers. That's usually a tell. So, not the only tell, and not always, but it's usually a tell. So with that, Twitter is essentially, and let's talk about this, and thank you, Kyle, for that primer, but Twitter is where 12% of Americans get their news. That is a huge, huge thing. That's per Pew Research. And for the record, Twitter has been, since Elon Musk took it over, shifting politically to the right side of the spectrum. Now, I am not, for the record, knocking the right or the left here. I am not getting political, but we have to understand that when platforms actually shift one way or the other, disinformation that preys on confirmation bias for that political side tends to grow and thrive. And that's exactly what we've seen happen on Twitter. Don't forget the backdrop of all of this. Mainstream social media companies have always tried to prevent disinformation from gaining traction, and essentially what they're trying to do is relegate those extremists on both sides of the political spectrum to more smaller, obscure, unmoderated networks. Think Gab or Parler, which eventually closed down, et cetera, et cetera. Elon Musk, though, basically fired the teams at Twitter when he took it over that were actually there to literally battle deceptive material, meaning there's very few, if any, checks, and now you're throwing an image generator into the mix. Well, shoot, I mean, we're going to see a whole bunch of political stuff, not to mention people, riffing deep fakes of X's, all this kind of stuff that could potentially be there. Now, to be fair to Musk, Mark Zuckerberg also cut trust and safety teams, but interestingly enough, per studies, Facebook, believe it or not, is actually more politically balanced than Twitter has become under X and Elon Musk. So, Musk, for the record, also, to really reiterate this point, also reinstated thousands of accounts that had received permanent bans. That includes neo-Nazis getting back on the site, conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, who basically just lost his shirt because he literally was lying, saying that the Sandy Hook victims were crisis actors and the whole thing was a hoax. I'm glad he lost his shirt on that. I'm sure I'll get hate for that. But he's oftentimes, Elon Musk himself, engaging with these people online. And because he has something like 100 million plus followers on his own platform, this stuff is essentially getting a supercharger dropped into it. Not to mention the disinformation that he has essentially put out there himself. If you remember Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House, her husband was attacked basically with a hammer. He had put out disinformation from a long debunked publication that said, well, this was Paul Pelosi's like former male lover, et cetera, et cetera. That was 100% false, proven false over and over again. But these are the things that live. And by virtue of it, if you really, really hate Nancy Pelosi, like with a burning passion, one, you're probably not too sad that her husband was viciously attacked, but you're also looking at that and saying, see, they're horrible, terrible, immoral, whatever your belief system is, when it's simply false. And it's being put out by somebody that is looked up to by millions of people. This is the issue we have. And on top of this, Elon Musk changed the verification system for basically into a pay-to-play scheme. And so by virtue of that, any subscriber that pays the $8 a month, or I don't think they've raised the price yet, basically gets boosted over regular users. And it's also harder to discern who is an actual legitimate, valid user or let's say an authoritative source versus essentially somebody else. If you remember when they started this whole thing, there were basically spoof accounts that looked exactly like Nike or a whole bunch of other major brands because it had that blue check mark. And even a pharmaceutical company lost millions of dollars almost instantly when essentially they were spoofed online, again with that blue checkmark verification, and said that basically they are making insulin free for everybody, which they absolutely were not. So this has, I think, the real potential to be an absolute disaster. You're putting a photorealistic generator that can manipulate photos eventually, not to mention generate photos of, I don't know, Joe Biden shooting a puppy, whatever they're going to come up with. And I think this is something to be very concerned about. And again, this isn't political, but these are the things that happen. And so by virtue of that, I think we have to take a step back and we have to really understand that these image generators in general, and it's not just X on this, there are a lot of them out there that have these kinds of issues or problems. I see them literally advertised on, oh, well, you can upload a picture of your ex and make him or her do things that, they wouldn't normally want to do, and it's photorealistic. And so we have to have some ethics here. We have to have some scruples. And when we are putting this out on a site that is rife with disinformation, that doesn't have fact checkers, and safety teams because they've been cut, that essentially the extremists like actual neo-Nazis and Alex Jones are on, this becomes of deep concern. And so by virtue of it, again, I don't care what your politics are. If this was completely left, I'd be saying the same thing with whoever the left-wing Alex Jones is. So this is a problem. And I don't see this going away. And I think it's going to get increasingly worse. And here we are. And I think that's the problem, is that we have so many people misled. I recently did a video/podcast on the need for the editorial process to actually have a vetting system to ensure that information is more accurate, as opposed to just this live stream of consciousness where it's so easy to insert disinformation. We just saw that with the hurricane that hit North Carolina, that girl and the puppy. I did a video on that. So this is a problem. We're going to see where this goes, but quite frankly, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And so like you, I'm bracing for impact. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and X, but I'm also on Blue Sky now at Nick AESP, just like X or Twitter. And also please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private, and please attempt to stay informed with actual information. Take care.